Okay, I didn't on the fan because if I on the fan, right, then the whole video would have quite a distorted audio output. So today I just want to talk about some simple cars again. So let us talk about the Iriz standard spec and also the Saga premium spec. Now you can notice this situation because these two cars, they cost quite the same amount of money. Okay, let's check the price of the Saga premium spec, because what I remember is that the Saga premium spec, it costs something around 40,000 or 39,000 excluding insurance. My phone switched off. No, never mind. Okay, so and the Iriz that I have, right, that car costs something like 42,000 ringgit right now, because now we don't have SST or GST for our local cars, which is a good thing if you are planning to buy Proton Perdana, because I mean you can get a B segment car without worrying about SST and even GST. Now, the Iriz is the safer car because it has a stronger body shell. Both cars, they have identical safety features, like you name it, they both have 2 airbags, and the Iriz and Saga, they have traction control, ESC, EBD, and ABS as expected. So there are some things that the Saga has that the Iriz standard spec does not have. Now, if you love to listen to music, right, you definitely have to choose the Saga premium spec, and that is because the sound system of the Saga is theoretically quite good. One of my friends tried the latest Saga and he realized that the sound system is actually pretty good. I mean, if you want to play marshmallow songs, if you want to play rehab songs, if you want to play even Skrillex songs, right, I mean, the Saga's speakers are enough to satisfy your entertainment needs. The Iriz standard spec only comes with 2 speakers, which I've been riding in this car for more than 6 months, and I can only tell you that 2 speakers is really not enough for everyday basis, because it is the same thing as listening to headphones, because basically the moment when you plug in your headphones, right, only 2 speakers are directed into your ear channel. Okay, and what this means is that you don't actually get to hear a very clear sensation of the music. Some of my friends who are a bit more kaya, a bit richer, they go to the accessory shop, they install 2 more speakers at the back. Some of my other friends, even though they bought the Iriz executive model, 4 speakers, right, but they go all out, install a subwoofer, install Kenwood speakers or whatever branded speakers, Mohawk speakers. This is something that the premium spec Saga is better compared to the Iriz standard spec. And you have to imagine this safety feature that the Saga has. Like for example, the Saga premium spec has reverse camera. This is something that the Iriz standard spec does not have. I mean, every time when I see the way my mom reverse the car or park her car, right, I did admit that it is quite a struggle, because the car is actually very wide, okay, compared to the Nissan Serena S Hybrid, for instance. Okay, actually the Iriz, the width of the Iriz is 1720 mm, and for the C26 Serena, the width is 1735, and for the C27 that we are currently having in Malaysia, that car is 1740 mm. And of course, those 2 cars, those 2 MPVs, they have reverse camera as standard. No, the C26 normal version, which is the version without fabric, the version without leather seats, it comes with a standard audio system, so basically you don't get a screen to look at your reverse camera. The Highway Star version has a reverse camera as expected. And so you can imagine, right, a B segment car which is so wide. But the thing is that why the Serena Hybrid is a bit sempit. Okay, I'm sorry to all Serena S Hybrid users. I know that your car is actually pretty comfortable for long journeys. It is quite slow, but I mean it gets to your destination. And yeah, I mean, why is that C segment MPV so narrow? That's because in Japan they have to design this car to be so narrow so that users can enjoy lower car taxations, because basically you need to understand that people who buy the Serena are most likely the type of consumers that cannot afford the likes of a Wildfire or an Alphard. So if they are consumers of slightly average income, they cannot afford to pay so much of tax for their cars. So that is why Nissan made it very considerate, whereby they make the car a bit narrow so that because of the dimensions of the car, it is able to get some tax subsidies. So back to the story, right? 1720mm B segment car. It is, I tell something, it is actually a bit difficult to park the Iriz. I mean, imagine people who drive other cars like the Proton Perdana 2016, which my friend has problems parking that car in KL, and he is planning to get something smaller. Reverse camera on the Saga is okay lah, quite clear for everyday use. And you would also appreciate the number of USB ports that you get in the Saga, because Saga basically comes with one socket and 3 USB ports, and you did imagine where the other 2 USB ports exist. So basically you have one power socket and one USB port in front, and you have 2 USB ports at the back, which means that the rear passengers, they are able to charge their phones. 2 phones they can charge at the back. And for my Iriz, right, you only get one power socket and one USB port, which means that the people at the back, they have to prepare their own power bank. I'm so sorry, but yeah, they have to prepare their own power bank. For a B segment car, right, normally some families, they actually buy B segment hatchbacks. Like I know of even poorer families whereby the father, the breadwinner of the family, buys a Viva 660cc version, and you want to imagine that such a family, right, they reproduce so well that they have 3 children, and you want to imagine those 3 children plus 2 adults sitting in such a small A segment hatchback. I mean, you just imagine, like, in Malaysia, some people really get very low wages, and with that said, right, the cars that they are entitled to purchase is quite shitty, to be honest. Like, in my opinion, like, people who earn like around 3,000 ringgit a month, say a father who earns 3,000 ringgit a month and he has 3 babies, I want to say that this father at least deserves a Proton Saga. Okay, but unfortunately, our car prices, okay, plus our living costs, imagine this family of 5, they stay in KL. They are not going to buy a Saga because they might be broke, considering that the monthly installment, the fuel consumption, because I want to tell you something, VVT engines, they don't actually save so much of fuel. I mean, it is a naturally aspirated petrol engine, and to be honest, this engine is not something slow, because based on my Iriz, right, if you full throttle the car, it actually goes. It actually excites you and surprises you a lot. If you accelerate your car, you start to run away from the traffic line. As typical Malaysians, we like to full throttle our cars. It is better to actually full throttle a slow car than to only be able to half throttle a powerful car. Because how often do you get to full throttle a car? Maybe you seldom do, because nowadays, with many people getting richer and richer due to more success achieved, or maybe they do illegal business, I don't know, we get cars like the GLC 200, some of us get cars like the Honda Accord 2.4, some of us get other, nicer, sleeker cars like the Volkswagen Passat. And you want to imagine, if you full throttle those cars, imagine you are driving along the Persiaran roads and you full throttle. I mean, you're most likely to cause danger to pedestrians or maybe other road users, because I tell you something, these cars, right, the cars that I mentioned just now, they are actually quite powerful. If you're not an F1 driver, then it is quite powerful. All in all, they purchased the Viva 660, and purchasing the Viva 660, right, you are actually driving the most basic car in Malaysia compared to the Asia, which has 2 airbags. And actually, before the Asia came out, right, the Malaysian government set a plan where they set a regulation where every car in Malaysia needs to have at least 2 airbags, which means one on the steering wheel and one on the passenger side of the dashboard. And the Viva 660, the final version of it, okay, it has 2 airbags, but I'm sure that the Viva 660 does not have ABS, and also that car will not have ESC or TC. We're talking about the Iriz, right? So basically, a car that costs 42,000 does not give you 2 USB ports at the back. So you would be questioning of whether this is a good family car for poor families. To be honest, I want to say this because my mom is the only one driving the car all the time, and so you don't need so many USB ports like the Myvi, because basically the Myvi, I think, yeah, the premium X Myvi, right, it comes with 2 USB ports at the back, and you even get to slot your phone at a pocket provided beside the bolstering of the seat. And so I came to the conclusion that my mom actually got the right car for herself, because basically she is not so tall, so she needs a car with a tall ride height and tall seats because it improves her visibility. For me, I'm 171 cm, so basically a Saga premium spec would be good enough for me, because basically I am very used to riding in my own Zafiro, so you don't expect me to sit in a car which has seats that are as tall as those that you get in an Exora. Okay, that is a bit exaggerated, but I'm serious, the seats in the Iriz are actually too tall. The Saga comes with a bigger boot, so if you want to go to KL, you want to carry a golf bag, you want to carry a luggage bag, you want to carry your children's luggage bag as well, do it. I mean, you get 400 over liters of boot space, which I tell something you can really appreciate that for family trips. But for the Iriz, you only get something like 200 liters. So if you put one single camera active luggage bag, you would end up being fucked, because your children will not have enough of space to put their own luggage bag, unless you want to torture them, unless you want them to carry their own bags. The Saga is lighter, so I believe that the Saga is able to leave the traffic light with faster acceleration compared to the Iriz, because basically you know that the Iriz is heavier than the Toyota Vios, the Honda City, and the Nissan Almera. Iriz is not something which is light. And apart from that, right, there is an advantage about the Iriz where you get a multi-info display, which is something that the cheaper Saga does not have, despite having all the other advantages that I mentioned just now, which is more of the practical advantages that it has. Multi-info display, you get to see your fuel consumption, your driving time, your service warning lights. You get to see your total driving time consumed, and yeah, you can get to you get to see more info through the meter as well compared to the Saga. For the Iriz, you get LED tail lights, you get projector headlamps as well. So I think that those are the premium touches that the Iriz has as compared to the Saga. And also, you have to admit this thing, the Saga premium spec, or whatever version of the Saga that you buy, it looks better than my Iriz, my standard spec Iriz. And because my Iriz has no spoiler, so it looks bought up, and my Iriz doesn't have the bumper diffuser. You see, if you buy the executive Iriz or maybe the premium spec Iriz, you get a very beautiful the rear bumper section is bulging out, so it makes the car look a bit more well equipped. I should call that well equipped, or maybe you can call it it looks more beautiful for simplicity. You get fog lamps with the Saga, okay, and for my car you don't get fog lamps. So when you drive during foggy seasons, please be careful. Engage your high beam lights probably. I can't help with that. The rear lights of the Saga, they actually have a very premium looking shape, because basically if you want to observe, right, the droopy eye look of the tail lights, they they remind me of the previous generation BMW E90, and that means, well, I mean, the car is already so old. It is actually 10 years old by today's standards, but the thing is that the car still has a very good looking backside, which the Saga adapted that sort of tail-light design. And for the diffuser section, they also make it very modern. They just want to excite passerbys. When people see the car, they just feel like owning it. And I think that Proton has done a very successful job to make the Saga a good looking car. But how about the Iriz, as I mentioned just now? Basically, to be honest, the Iriz standard spec and the older Savvy low spec, they both look like toilet bowls. Okay, I am insulting myself, and because if you look at the front cover of both of these cars, the Savvy and the Iriz, now they just, it is just so round, so curvy, and if you buy the white color car like I do, you would suffer you would suffer almost every day, because you are basically looking at a toilet bowl on the road. And if you talk about the rear design of my Iriz, right, basically you can see a very U-shaped looking detail at the back, which that U-shaped looking detail, it surrounds the rear tail lights, and also it surrounds the rear cover of the trunk. Yup, so I'm driving a toilet bowl, I guess. You just look at the whole profile of the Saga. Basically, when you look at the Saga, right, it just, I tell you something, you buy the premium spec, it looks premium. I'm honest, okay? You buy it for 40,000, I tell you something, it actually looks better than the Nissan Almera. Okay, now the Almera, they came out with an updated version of the Nismo package, which to me, I don't think that this is a very useful marketing idea, because consumers nowadays, right, we are very smart in a way that we care more for our safety, we care more for fuel efficiency, we care more for power. And basically, the Almera does not have enough of power, because actually for a 1.5, the horsepower rating is somewhere near a March 1.4 liter engine, which in my opinion, like, why do you spend so much to buy a car which is equally as slow as the older Saga FLX? I mean, the FLX is a car that gets you to 100 km per hour full throttle in 13 seconds. If you pump something like around 95, you get an acceleration time of 13.5 seconds, which in my opinion, like the Almera that I mentioned, okay, I think that car does 0 to 100 in 12.5 seconds, and you don't expect this for a 60,000 car, because I mean, why should you expect a 60,000 car to perform so slow? You want it to be faster. The Honda City CVT version, it is actually faster than Hiviseng's Vios. Okay, maybe you can go and watch his video, because basically that CVT based Honda City is faster than a manual Toyota Vios. And looking back at our car purchase decision, right, to be honest, I think that we are better off with the Saga, because the Saga, if you buy a white color car, the grey color Saga or the silver color or black color Saga, right, the exterior is very sexy. I tell honestly, from the front, you look at the side profile, you look at the back side of the car, it is just, I mean, I don't know where I don't know which country is the Saga's designer from, but to be honest, I love the way it looks. It is great looking. And yeah, there you have it, guys. So basically, it is your own choice of what you want to buy. I mean, if you want more safety, if you want a more advanced car, basically you get the Iriz. But if you want something that looks better, has better sound system, or you want a car that has more legroom. Yes, the thing is legroom, because the Saga has more legroom compared to the Iriz. But the thing is that the rear seats of the Saga are not so tall, which means that if you go for long journeys, it is not so comfortable to sit in the Saga. Okay, because you need to get you all need to know the difference between legroom and comfort. Okay, so basically, a good legroom, a spacious legroom gives you a lot of space obviously, because the phrase itself tells you everything about it. But how often do you get to sit in a car in which the seat base fully supports your thigh? Okay, how often do you get a car with perfect thigh support? I mean, you rarely get to sit in a car which has amazing seats. Nowadays, people are cutting costs. Okay, to be honest, I sat in the C27 Serena before. I went to a road show, and to be honest, the seats, right, the way they feel to me is that they are low. Okay, they are very low. And my friend told me the reason why they make the seats so low is because that they want to make the ingress and outgress easier for old people and small kids. Because you imagine this scenario, right? And some children are really short as well, and that applies to some adults as well. But the thing is that with such a seat height, right? Because basically you need to know that the Serena is a very tall car compared to your normal Nissan Tiana. With such a tall roof, you get so low seats. And I think that is not exactly logical, because you can look at the Wildfire or Alphard. They are tall, they are actually taller than the Serena, but they give you the best, if not the best, they give you excellent seat height, because basically you sit in a very supported figure, okay? Something that can rival Andy Lau's awesome chair. Nissan can actually improve on the facelift version of the C27, because currently the C27 that you see in your showroom is the pre-facelift, obviously, and we expect a newer version to come out in maybe the end of next year or maybe 2 years later, because basically this car came out in 2016, so you don't actually expect a facelift to come out too fast. But if you ask me, right, I would actually get the Saga Premium spec. I mean, that car is just, I think it suits my taste more than the Iriz.